So mad. All right. Skipped a little bit into this video because this guy like does a lot of talking.
Kicking off our list at number 5.
Oh, all right. So we read chapter 7. Obviously, the biggest thing we got out of this was plussing, giving your guests more than they want, which is obviously such an important tool for us here in stores because that's all we do. We really are. We already have the stuff there, and we could sell it, and a electronic thing could sell it. But honestly, if we don't, go and give them that better experience, there's no reason for us to be there behind the counter. So that's what we all try to tell our cast and ourselves is plus the experience. So it starts out as World War II is ramping up, and there's a big need for less expensive films because of the loss of the European markets. We're going to have, I also have, this is going to be a lesson for us because we're going to have to be running on more of a budget for ourselves once we go back to Disney based on the COVID experience and how we lost some money in the company. So this will be good for us to learn how to do a lot of what we do now, but on less of a budget. So that'll be a good thing for us to think about. Dumbo, though less expensive, earned a lot of money, though it's not my favorite movie, but it's a good movie. It's just not my favorite. Then we went Disney Goes to War. Pearl Harbor happens and many of the animators, and I'm going to U.S. Army training movie productions, which is in the Army's movie production part. Disney starts producing more films that have very colorful titles like How to Build a Privy, which is also a toilet for Americans. Disney went back to producing cartoons 8 months after the war starts. Mickey and his friends were placed in civic projects like, were promoting civic projects like Victory Gardens and Steel Drives. Bambi was the next production, yet another movie that was not a blockbuster. The films, though not earning a lot, were projects that stood the test of time. So these things are things that are going to re-release later and become popular on re-release and popular even now to young kids watching Bambi, 60 years later. The Song of the South is released after the war is over. It has sort of a controversial elements to it, but is described in this book as a very good one. The next movie was Cinderella, one of the biggest gambles to date, as basically Roy wanted to sell the company and just walk away with a bit of a profit, and Walt basically insisted on one more. He does go to a shareholder meeting at this point. He's not in a great mood to be in the shareholder meeting because as he comes in, he just reads a fan letter about what the great quality of the movies has done to this particular fan's life. And then he walks out of the meeting, basically saying, it doesn't matter about the money. We'll make more money later. Cinderella then makes a ton of money, which is good because that was the one that they needed to either have work or they were going to go out of business. So that was they made that work as well. And we have just a list of movies. We go with Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, Lady and the Tramp. 20,000 Leagues in the Sea was the first big live action for them. And then Sleeping Beauty was what many people call the pinnacle of animation and is a great movie. I love that movie myself. And it's actually not a huge hit at the time, but again, with re-releases, it does become. So for us, I love the quote from Walt. He says, "Never do less than your best." And I think this could be true for anything. Anything we do during the week, during the day, during our work day, whatever, never do less than your best. That's a great line. This is kind of like what Ted likes to say, which is the inspect what you expect, right? So always make sure you're paying attention to detail is another big part of it. And let me skip our commercial here. Let's see that. So the one story I'm going to share, hopefully I'm not stepping on anybody's toes, is about the maid at the resort hotel who puts the dolls all around the room, posed just to delight the children. Obviously her job is just to clean up the room, but she takes these dolls and puts them in such a way that when the guest remarks on what their favorite part of the Walt Disney Resort experience was, it was the maid every night setting the dolls up in another fashion. And I think, man, if we could just get, 20,000 more like her, what a place Disneyland really would be. We just all need to be like that, thinking about how we can plus the experience. It really kind of choked me up when I read that. It was a really good story of just take the time and make sure your guests get the best experience possible. I don't always practice what I preach on that one, but still. All right. Let's see here. Doug, what did you think about all this?
Ladies first.
You want to go ladies? Sure. Okay, we'll go with Haley.
Okay.
Oh, there's the beautiful face.
I look like I just woke up because I did.
Yes, you do. You have a hair out of place.
Which one?
That one right there.
Oh,
I don't know. I think it's the one on
this
my
one? This one?
Yep,
Thanks, guys.
my pleasure.
I just love how you're so supportive.
Always. Even in pandemics.
Okay. So I think the quote that I liked the best from this chapter was when Walt said, it's one like on the little side. It says, fantasy, if it's really convincing, can't become dated for the simple reason that it represents a flight into a dimension that lies beyond the reaches of time. And I think that's very true standing because a lot of like the films like Cinderella and Peter Pan and Alice have all stood the like test of time because of how he continuously like plus these features. And I know in the boutique, a lot of times when we ask like the kids what their favorite princess is, besides the sisters, they say like Snow White, Aurora, and Cinderella. And usually like the more modern princesses are more popular with like the kids like 8 and up or 25. Even if their reason is just because they think the dress is pretty, they still like them the best. And an honorable mention is that I did not know that they use the same actor for Captain Hook and Mr. Darling. Never knew that. I was today years old. So, yeah.
I love that perspective from Bibbidi about those princesses, because even I walking in there like a total novice was like, we still sell Snow White dresses? Like people care about that old cartoon? Yeah, they do. You're right. That's really cool. Jessica, you want to go next?
Yeah, I can go. Okay, so for today's sign, we're going to do the sign for princess because I thought it was appropriate. So you're going to get your letter P, and you're going to put it on your non-dominant shoulder, and then to your dominant shoulder, and then down to your hip. So princess. So that's the sign for princess. I know it's awkward on the screen, but there we go. Okay, so for this chapter, what really struck out to me is that a lot of his films that he created were considered failures when they first were released, and he was really passionate about them, like Fantasia. And then down the road, they did really well and earned them a lot of money. And I just think it's something we can take from that is that everything you do isn't going to be successful, but it may start something down the road, or it may help you learn and grow and produce something else. So his failures brought him to Dumbo, and Dumbo was super successful in the first film that actually made them any money. And then it brought him to Cinderella, and he kind of learned from the audience and what they like, and through that created a successful company. So I think it's important to remember that you will have failures, but they may lead you to something better, or they may become not a failure down the road once people have different perspective and it's kind of breathed for a little bit. And then one of the quotes that really stuck out to me is, no matter what business you are in, your success depends on your commitment to excellence and attention to detail. If you deliver more than people expect, you will turn clients into fans. If you go out of your way to make people feel special, they will go out of their way to buy your product. And that really stuck out to me, and it kind of made me think about holiday. And I just had my second holiday season in the holiday shop being a personalizer, and it was really cool because I was helping a guest with their ornament, and as I was ringing them up, they're like, you did my ornament last year. And it was like one of the first ornaments I had done as a personalizer. And all I can remember was how scared I was and how like not great it was when I first started. But she's like, we love it so much. We're so excited you're going to do our ornament this year. And they're like, we had such a good time talking to you, and it's so good to see you again. And just that it had been an entire year, but just having a conversation with them and getting to know them, they felt special, and they came back to me and were so excited to have me do it again for them. And so that just kind of popped into my head when I read that quote. And it makes me happy and sad at the same time because I miss work and I want to go back. But it really does show that if you make people feel special, they will come back and they will buy your product again. And that's what I got.
I love clients and the fans. It's such a, and we know that's why half the people come back to us and they're the pass holders and everything, right? Judy, do you want to go next?
Sure. So for me, from all the movies, the one that stood out the most was Lady and the Tramp, and how that became a thing. How our dogs should meet. You know, one of his animators had a story of Lady, but Walt wanted to plus it, and he knew something was missing. And then he had another animator who had, was it Happy Dan? Is that the Tramp's original name? Yeah, Happy Dan. That was a separate story. So in order to make both of these stories that were on their own good, he put them together to make something great. And now, because of his plussing, not only do we have Lady and the Tramp, but we have that wonderful scene that was inspired by his relationship with his wife, with the presenting the dog in the hat box. So that was the most standout story in terms of plussing, especially when it came to his movies. And also, another thing that just was a stark, like, wait a minute, what? Was when he would walk around Disneyland, he would see his cast members plussing. So he had a roll of fives and would tip them. And like, completely unheard of now. If you're not in the boutique, absolutely, you're not going to let your cast members take a tip unless they decline it 3 times. So that was kind of, I guess, different eras and different evolution of where the guest servicing aspect was for Disney. But that was kind of surprising, and I'm pretty sure cast members at the time would probably be flabbergasted as well, like, oh hey, the owner of the Walt Disney Company just tipped me $5 because I made this particular guest stay extra special. So it's interesting how important it was to Walt, and how I never thought about that. It's just the Disney way to me, like from when I was a first cast member and my evolution and seeing other cast members as well. We're doing our job in just pushing the positive experience for our guests just a little further, even though for us it's just like, it's no big deal. Like we have 10 of the same pin and this guest doesn't have any more pins that they don't want to trade with. Well, here you go. Like, wait a minute, what? Like, it's not a big deal, but you wanted this pin, you're done, you don't have any more traders. One pin isn't gonna hurt the company, so have the pin you want to have. Or just taking it upon yourself to bag guests souvenirs for their family individually when they didn't even consider it. Like, no, yeah, this will be super easy to divvy up when you get home. And it's just something so extraordinary for them when it's something so minuscule for us to be doing, because it's just how we were trained, us now in the era that we're in compared to when Disneyland first opened. It's just second nature. It's expected of us. So it never occurred to me that the term that Disney coined was plussing, and it's guest servicing to me, so that's a great way to see how that came about, and why we're still to this day excellent a guest servicing company, when we're not even realizing like that we're plussing for the sake of plussing. We're just plussing it because that's how we were trained. That's how we are. That's our culture as Disney cast members.
I did the math, and it's $50 today, by the way, $5 in 1955
Wow.
or whatever. So we got to get on Teresa about pulling out the 50s.
When I read that part, I thought that, wow, that would be really cool to come in, and that would be part of the Arsenal tool bag.
Oh my
A
God.
roll of $5 bills. Can you imagine how many of our cast members even the ones that are so shy and stuff about talking to people, just to make that extra $5, how engaging they would be with our guests.
That's not untrue.
But it's also the equivalent of like Bob Iger walking through the park. Like we're not talking about Teresa's level. We're talking about like it would have been a big deal to see someone on that level walk through to begin with.
Yeah, but in the same way, you guys remember the story about somebody went on Jungle Cruise and they just gave like a very like lackluster. I'm like, if Walt was on there, it would be a 20-minute tour because I'd be like doing every joke I knew. Like, I still couldn't believe that. I was like, Walt was on your boat and you gave like a 5-minute crappy boat tour? That guy would be fired, is all I'm saying.
Maybe they were just nervous.
Maybe.
Maybe it was just public speaking.
Yeah, like when you're like giving a presentation and you speak faster than you
Yes,
think
that's
you
true.
are, maybe.
That's very true. Oh, that poor cast member. I bet they got chewed out. Let's see.
This kind of relates to the Jungle Cruise thing. Like,
Yeah.
in one of my classes, we're talking about like giving presentations and how because you're so high on adrenaline, like when you're going faster, you think that you're presenting better. So you think the performance is better than it actually is. So maybe, like I said, they were just nervous.
Like, that was great. I did it in 5 minutes. Yeah. I could see that. That's a good point. All right. Let's see. Lauren.
Hi, everyone. First of all, I just wanted to say how happy I am to see everyone this week. It's always the highlight. So in the lessons, it was talking about just make sure you never do less than your best, no matter what business you're in. Your success depends on your commitment to excellence and attention to detail. And I thought that was really interesting because I always have this belief that we should never really strive for perfection just because it's unattainable, and you're going to be focusing on details that aren't really going to matter. That's really just going to take up your efforts. But if we are excellent in what we do, then it's our best. It's our best and more, and that's just going to be enough. That's all we can expect from each other, and it's not mediocre. It's truly excellent. And then when they were talking about turning clients into fans, it reminded me of this awesome book because I'm a business and marketing nerd and I read them on the side. There's a book called Fanocracy. I forgot who the author is, but it was just so cool. And I believe that's like the core of our business, is just making sure that our guests really enjoy the experience. And when we turn them into fans of any sort, they're always going to come back. They're going to speak so highly of us, and I love when parts of my world just connect unintentionally. It's great.
That's awesome. You said it was called Fanocracy?
Yeah, Fanocracy.
Okay, very cool.
It like just came out like earlier this year, but I read it before quarantine and loved it.
I'll have to check that out. So Jenna, obviously everybody liked this chapter in this book. What did you think about it?
Well, I think it's exactly what you said. You can't not like it because it really is study in the belief of there's literally no reason in life to always do your best. It's something that I've always had for a long time. When someone says, "Oh, well, it's my own personal philosophy of like, oh, well, they're paying for you for it either way. Like you can do, like it's the same job." To me, like if you really want to move forward in life, you want to see what you're made of. Like yeah, they might be paying me for the same job, but I am going to put in the extra time, the extra work, and see how far I can go, because that's for me. I'm not doing it for anyone else. I'm not trying to say if I'm working next to somebody who likes to slack, okay, they like to slack. I don't, so I'm going to keep going. I'm going to see what I can do and what I'm made of. And so this, I feel like, kind of follows that same belief of like there's just literally no reason to always do the best you possibly can. Because in the long run, you're only hurting yourself and no one else. The stuff about the attractions I love in these chapters, there's a few things that I've always really liked. One, the trees on Main Street is something that when I first started seeing at Disney, like all you just hired in as a cast member and they show you all the pictures of the park getting built. the one thing in my mind I always could never figure out, like when I was just looking at these photos, of why there was no trees. Like I kept thinking to myself, like it was just the back thought of like, so strange that they built this entire park and like didn't do any landscaping. And it wasn't until I read this book the first time that, and I read that I went back and I looked back at the photos, and the trees are this big. And they are still there, and they did them. And I was like, totally, I went on Main Street and started freaking out about the trees. I was like such a nerd. I was like, but the tree, I put in the tree themselves. Like, I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. But I just literally never realized it was the exact same tree that they planted, because he knew. And that's the thing that really impresses me about Walt, of how much he really thinks about the future. Like the parts of the Pirates of the Caribbean where he said like, well, it's such a waste and putting all this time and effort, but you're going to go back past it in 2 seconds. But Walt knew, like, the whole point of it is if you're looking for details, you want to come back, you want to watch it again, you want to see that ride again. So he always was so focused on what does the future look like and how can I like see what it will be. And today when you walk around and you see the trees, I will never get over that, because like literally that was a genuine thought that I had, that I was like mad at Disney that they didn't think about the landscaping. So I was like so completely impressed when I found out like they did think about the landscaping and it was meant to grow. So the next time you have a cast member that's like, they're changing everything, it shouldn't change, point out the trees. It's meant to grow. Like the park, that is still Walt's every day, making the park better as we go. So yes, I very much like this chapter.
Yeah, I know. It was actually ended up being a little shorter than I thought it was, but I'm glad we stopped and concentrated on it because it had a lot of good stuff in it. So Doug, Van just wanted to have, she shared what she wanted to share, so she's good. So Doug, you are going to be the last and final now.
Okay, so I've liked the whole book, but my favorite part, the whole thing about the book that I like is just the last, at the end of each chapter, that this person who didn't even know Walt, he puts the lessons that he's learned from it. But before I go into that, I wanted to, something I found kind of funny about, compared to today, what was going on back then. This was all happening during a war. Well, we're not in a war, but kind of a war. But how he did everything for the government at cost, and how the bean counters, the accountants that he got, could not figure out how to get that, put that into their systems and make it come out right, because they are always the cost and the profit, and how our governments are having problems with their pay systems. You know, like I guess California had with the unemployment. I just found that kind of funny. Anyway, I like the whole thing about plussing. And sometimes when I'm walking through the park and, you know, doing my job, checking on my cast members, walking through the store, I see things and I sometimes think, well, what would Walt think about it? But anyway, the thing that I liked most about this chapter was the final story that was told about the hotel and the family that came back to the hotel. They spent their time at the resort, at the Disney Resort, Walt Disney Resort, and one of their little girls could not wait to get back to their hotel room at night. It wasn't the amusements that was going on or the food in the park or anything. It was getting back to the hotel room because she wanted to see what the maid did with their dolls. Because every night or every day, the maid would do something different with the dolls. And that just made that little girl's day. And that he compared it to, that was that hotel maid plussing up that guest stay. So my favorite quote from here is the very last 2 lines, and it's pursue excellence in everything you do, plus every experience, and then plus the plus. And I think that's something when we go back that I'm gonna remember and try and push with our cast members and with myself. That's it.
I loved that story about the dolls. I think there's so much opportunity for us in stores to, you know, arrange things in cute ways or whatever it is to have people want to come back and see it. But there's just one little thing I thought might be for the financially minded of us. Tinkerbell wasn't a big character in any of the part of the normal stories before the first Peter Pan, and then Walt decided to make her into an actual character. Strange internet searches I do, but I went and looked up every single just standalone Tinkerbell movie, and we've made $500 million off just the Tinkerbell movies, which was just one little tiny plus Disney decided to add into Peter Pan. And just when you think about those little details like that, and like how you can make so much money and so many people so happy for so many years, just because you're like, hey, like let's make this little white dot into something. And
That's why she should be number one.
yeah. Is she your favorite?
Yes.
Oh,
You
nice.
didn't know that?
I didn't know that. No.
Let's not.
You
Let's
never
not.
heard my story when I become CEO?
Did you're just gonna have Tinkerbells?
No, that there's going to be a beheading in Toontown.
I warned you, Patrick. I warned you.
Yeah, and it's not Mickey Mouse because I love Mickey Mouse, but it's a Minnie. Minnie Mouse is going to be beheaded,
Can you mute all of us?
and then Toontown will become
Why?
Pixie Hollow.
This took a very dark turn.
I told you. I told you.
I always knew that Tinkerbell was your favorite. However, I didn't know to what extent.
Why I have her? Why do you think I have her tattooed on me?
But I just didn't know that you were going to behead Minnie Mouse.
She is my girlfriend, okay? Not Peter Pan.
Or did you?
You all miss me, you know it.
Do it.
I haven't laughed that hard in a while, Doug. Thank you.
You need to heed my advice more often.
I'm gonna have just a hard cut in the video right there, and then people are gonna be, what happened?
That's why Bob Iger blocks the video this week.
Yeah.
The one story I forgot about is Lillian was super upset that she missed his biggest Oscar and made him sleep at his office. Like, I
Oh yeah, I was
my
so
mom.
that was so
so funny. He's like, oh.
He's like, I won't win anything, and then he wins the most Oscars like ever.
And she stayed home that one time.
Oh my
Like,
God. I would have been mad too, though.
yeah.
That's so funny.
She had a right to be upset.
Mhm.
All
I
right.
like how this chapter was all about, like, basically our area. Like, all the movies that inspired our land and all that. So it was really cool to read about it and the creation. Not necessarily about the park, but, like, you know, the films that inspired it.
We could definitely do 2 chapters, right, guys? I think we the next one's a really short one.
The next one is 39 pages.
So chapter 8 is 39 pages, right?
Uh-huh.
And then chapter 9, because mine's all one off because they counted the introduction as chapter 1. So chapter 9 is shorter though, right? It's like a lot shorter.
Yeah. But that was chapter 10.
You, because I can't get over that.
What's that?
I said I'm glad that annoyed you too, because I can't get over that.
Yes.
It would be 117 for both chapters, would be 117 to 229.
Okay, so it'd be a lot.
Yeah, we do 2 chapters.
So should we just do 1 and then do 2 next week because those two are a little short.
Yeah, those 2 are short.
Okay, yeah. So we'll just do chapter 8. And yes, it does annoy me, and my